Occasionally, we need to really show off when the Timberland Regional Board, the big board, comes to town. And this happens every, several years. And when that occurs, I, this is a matter of pride for Montesano. This is a big deal. So I go to my best bakers, and Judy is at the top of the list. And I say, I need something really awesome. And she makes this spectacular cake. And the result is that not only the board, but the staff who have to come to these meetings really kind of look forward to coming to Montesano because they know they're going to get treated right. So, Judy, take us to places we haven't been.
All right. Well, today we're going to make a really great spring dessert. But I say spring dessert because usually it has a lot of fresh fruit in it. So I think that's when most people will make it, when they can find that kind of stuff available. It's called a Pavlova. And I don't know if anybody's had that. It's something I have enjoyed making because it's been a bit of a challenge. It involves egg whites and meringue and things like that. And it's very sensitive to baking temperatures and opening the oven too often, that kind of stuff. So as somebody who's been baking for a long time, a Pavlova was something I worked hard on for a couple of years before I ever became a baker down at All Wrapped Up. So when Helen got a hold of me and mentioned this, I thought, oh, this is my chance to show off my Pavlova skills. So thankfully, I was able to bake one. I have a sample for you here that turned out pretty good. There is a crack or two in it, but it's been sitting since last night, and sometimes that settles a little bit. So the basics of a Pavlova is like any other meringue. We're going to have egg whites, and we're going to have some sugar, some vanilla, and then a few other things we'll add at the end. Pavlova is kind of a weird thing because some people believe it was created for a world-class Russian ballerina in the 1920s. And then other people believe it was created in Germany. So depending on where you want to go with that, you're either going to travel to Russia today, or you're going to go to Germany. And then the Russian ballerina had her Pavlova, according to the story, a lot in New Zealand. So we've got a couple of places that we're traveling to today, if you think about it that way. So the basics, like we said, is a meringue. So I have 6 eggs that I'm going to put in my bowl here. And I know we all know how to separate eggs. Just make sure you get absolutely no egg yolk in that bowl at all, because that fat and the egg yolk is going to make your meringue not work. And the other thing that works really great with a Pavlova is to make sure that your egg whites are at room temperature before you start beating them. And we have to add just a pinch of salt to that. All, really important measurements in baking world. Pinch, everybody knows what that is. And I'm going to set that on my mixer here and step back away from it because it is kind of loud. And then we'll talk about the rest of the ingredients in the Pavlova as it's beating. So like any meringue, we're going to get it up to 50, and then we are going to add some sugar to it. And then the other thing that's different about Pavlova is it needs something to help it stabilize, because as you can see, it is a pretty big meringue. So it's going to need 3 things that we're going to add. We're going to add some vinegar, a teaspoon of vinegar, a teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm one of those bakers that believes only in real vanilla. I spent the money back when it was $32 for this size of vanilla, because I think it makes a huge taste difference, especially something like a Pavlova. So a teaspoon of vinegar, a teaspoon of vanilla, and then 3 teaspoons of cornstarch. And what that does is it will stabilize that meringue as it's baking. Otherwise, it would crush down, and then it will also give it that really great texture. Pavlova is known for, it'll be a crunchy exterior, like any other meringue, but then in the middle is this beautiful marshmallowy kind of consistency that just is so delicious. And we're going to add whipped cream to it and the fruit to it. So I'm going to get my cornstarch ready to go. So there are 3 teaspoons of cornstarch, 1 teaspoon of vinegar, and 1 teaspoon of real vanilla. And this gets it in a really small bowl because you don't want to waste any of that on the sides of your bowl. A meringue is another thing that's kind of sensitive about the ingredients, so be very careful with measurements. Cornstarch is one of those dry ingredients that you want to put it in and level it off. And then first the other liquids, you guys know how to measure those too. So I got the stick piece going, so I'm going to add 1.5 cups of sugar to that. And we're going to add that about 1/4 cup at a time. So I'm going to step over to the mixer and stop talking for a second while I do that. And we like to use baker's fine sugar down at the bakery in all of our bakers because it just dissolves better and has a better consistency. And especially with something like a meringue, you want that sugar to dissolve really quickly. A way to test that is when you've got all your sugar added, you can take a little pinch of the meringue between the fingers and rub it between the fingers. If you still feel grains of sugar, then you need to whisk it just a little bit more. And you like to go about 30 seconds in between each addition of 1/4 cup of sugar. And I'm adding 1.5 cups of sugar total. A little bit sweet on the sweet side of the meringue, but I think that's a great way to offset that beautiful fruit that we're going to put in there. I've added just a tiny little bit of sugar to our fruit just to get it macerated a little bit. Some people will add some brandy to their fruit too. If that's something you would like to do, go for it. All right, I'm getting that last little bit of sugar added. And because there's these 6 egg whites and they're all at room temperature, they're getting the stick heat pretty quickly. So I'm going to stop my mixer for just a minute. Like we talked about, I take a little bit of it in between my finger like this, and I can feel a little bit of grit. So I'm going to turn it back on for just a couple more minutes. I'm one of those bakers that likes to do things by the time in the recipe, but I also like to know how to visually check it or like feeling the grit between my fingers. Like when you test the cake, I like to set the timer, but I also like to double check by just pressing the top of it. Because everybody's oven times and temperatures vary, even though we set it at 300 degrees, sometimes it's a little bit off. So that's why I like to, when I'm baking, do a visual as well as what the recipe says as far as time goes. And while we're on the topic of ovens, we need to turn our oven on to 300 when we make a pavlova. And then when we go to put it in to bake it, we're going to turn that oven down to 250. That's what makes the nice tall structure in the pavlova that we're going to bake it low and slow. We're going to actually bake it about 1 hour and 15 minutes by the time we're done. And then we're going to shut our oven off and we're going to leave it, the door shut, even though that's hard to do. We're going to leave it in the oven with the door shut for about 3 hours. And it's always best to bake this pavlova the night before if you can, because then it has time to completely finish baking and cooling. That way you don't have anything cracked. And that's the hardest thing when we work with meringues is if you open the oven door and let that cold air in, that shot of cold air is going to make that pavlova thin. You're not going to have that beautiful marshmallow feeling inside with that great crunchy exterior. So I'm going to check mine again here real quick. And I do the double check with my finger. And it's nice and smooth now. So I'm going to take it out of my mixer. And I'm going to add that mixture we talked about, the vinegar. The vinegar, because you can see it's kind of thick because it has the cornstarch in it. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera very well. It's kind of thick. So I'm just going to drizzle that over the top of my egg whites and sugar and salt mixture. And just gently stir that in. I don't want to break down all that air that I just got in my egg whites. They're really stiff now and super glossy. That's another way you can tell that you've made a good meringue. Things like this. And I know you guys know there's a lot of different ways to use meringues. You can make macarons. There's meringue on top of lemon meringue pies. There's all sorts of meringue frostings even that you can make. So once you master this, figuring out how your egg whites whisk up the best and when to pull them out and stuff like that, you're unstoppable when it comes to baking. So if you can see, I've got kind of a glossy, really thick meringue here, and that's going to make us a good pavlova. Now, normally it's in this center, this round shape like this that I have here. You can make these miniature. You can divide this up into smaller pavlovas. That's sometimes easier to serve if you're going to do a lot. This recipe would probably make about 6 miniature ones. And they, of course, would bake a little bit less than the one we're going to do today. So I have a hard time visualizing things. So I like to make my pavlova on a pizza pan because it's in that circle already. And it kind of draws my eye and keeps me in that nice circle. You can make it whatever shape you want, but a traditional pavlova is in a circle. So we're going to pour this meringue out on a parchment paper. You don't need to grease your parchment paper because meringue, like we talked about, does not like any kind of fat or grease. And if you've made it correctly and you bake it correctly, you're going to have a pavlova that'll peel right off of that parchment paper. So we pour it all on our parchment paper. And then we're going to start making that circle shape. Don't push down too hard. You guys can see. And then we take our spatula or rubber scraper, we start drawing it up from the bottom to make that kind of a crown look to it. I'm smoothing the sides up and pulling it to the inside. And that kind of makes it a little bit of a natural crater for us too. So we can put all that beautiful fruit and whipped cream in there with it. And there you go. It should look something like this when you're ready to put it in the oven. And so like I said, we had our oven on 300, but now that I'm ready to put it in the oven, we're going to turn it down to 250. And then we're going to bake it for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And no matter how hard you want to do that, do not open your oven and check it. If you've got an oven light, of course, turn it on and look through the window if you can. But that blast of cold air when you open the oven door is going to make your pavlova fail pretty quickly. So I'm going to throw that in the oven. And turn my temperature down to 250.
Never gonna make it. I know. That's all right.
All right, and so that one's in the oven. I was just going to quickly show you what it looks like when you put it all together. This is the best part. You've got the pavlova, and I'm going to grab my whipped cream out of the refrigerator. I just simply took heavy whipping cream, some vanilla, and a little bit of powdered sugar and whipped it up together like this. And you just put a little bit of that in the crater in the center. And it kind of starts filling in those little bit of the cracks there. And then you simply top it with whatever fruit you like. Today we did some mixed berries and some mango. And like I said, the super sweetness of the pavlova kind of offsets sometimes that fruit that could be a little bit tart, and it just makes it so fun. You've got lots of textures. You've got the crunchy, you've got the marshmallow filling, then you've got the cool whipped cream, and then you have that tart kind of fresh berry feel. So there is a pavlova. Fastest one I've ever made from start to finish, but there you go. Any questions?
How do you serve it?
I would slice this in wedge shapes and then just give each person their wedge. That's why if you're serving a lot of people at a gathering, it's kind of easier to make them in the smaller little pavlovas because then they can just pick one up and put it on their plate. It does get a little bit messy by the time you get to the end of it, but it's so worth it. It's so delicious. And it is gluten-free. That's one thing I know that a lot of people are looking for. It's a gluten-free treat, so that's pretty cool too.
And how do you store it? If you have some and then there's some left over, how would you store that? In the fridge?
In the fridge, airtight container, yeah. And you can always bake your pavlova a day or two ahead of time, and again, store it in the fridge in an airtight container until you're ready to serve it.
Would you fill it right before you get ready to serve it? So you could bake it, store it, and then right before you serve it, you'd fill it.
Yeah, it's a great make-ahead dessert for sure. Yeah, and just whip that cream at the last minute and put it in the crater on top with your fruit, and you're ready to go. It's a really impressive dessert, and I know it kind of sounded complicated, but it's super easy. Give it a try. If you ever have any questions about, how yours turned out or anything, you're always welcome to call me down at the bakery. I'm usually down there every morning until 11 o'clock.
And how many eggs did you start out with? Egg whites?
It was 6 egg whites.
6, okay.
And we use large eggs, so try to use the large ones. And if you also have the chance to use farm fresh eggs, that's going to make an even more beautiful pavlova. I have to use of course, the store-bought ones at the bakery, but farm fresh eggs make just incredible meringue. Yeah. All right. Are we good? All right, well, thank you guys so much for having me. I love to share baking with people. I know if Helen mentioned, we do a kids baking academy once a month, and it's just so much fun to get the kids more interested in baking. And as you can tell, I'm kind of a baking nerd because that's my job, but I really appreciate the opportunity to share this great dessert with you guys. Thank you, Helen, for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
I've got
And-
one question. Judy, what's your
Yes.
favorite cookbook? Since this is
My favorite, I have an old tattered Betty Crocker cookbook in my cupboard that my dad gave me when I turned 16. And that's probably my favorite because it's got all the basics, cakes, pies, cookies, all that kind of stuff. And I refer back to that one a lot still. And I won't tell you guys how long ago it was that I was 16 years old, but it's pretty tattered, but it's one I would not want to give up because it's got all the basics in it.
And are you ever going to do an adults baking academy?
Yes, please. Yes,
Yes,
please.
yes, we are. Now that our remodel project has progressed as it has, that upstairs meeting room is going to be where I'm going to do the baking academy for adults. Yeah,
Oh, fun.
There's
we've
an
had quite a few
upstairs?
requests.
There's an
Yeah,
upstairs
there's a-
meeting room?
Yeah, there's a little room above the coffee shop. That's about phase 16 of our project, but that's where Gary moved my old sinks up there, and that's where we plan to do all of our baking education classes from. So yeah, as soon as we get this done, then we'll put an ad out for the adult class. We've had a lot of people ask about it. And like I said, I love to share my love of baking with anybody who wants to listen. So yeah, we're definitely going to do an adult class.
Wow. What are you going to show us to how to do first?
Well, I think we're going to go through just some basic baking because, and Megan can attest to this, Megan Valentine can. A lot of the moms, when they were listening in on our Kids Academy, learned some things like how to measure flour and things like that. We'll do some real quick baking, basic baking tips. And then the most popular thing that people want to learn how to make is macarons. So we'll probably either move them into either bread or macarons, depending on how much time we want to spend. Yeah.
I was going to say that bread recipes are amazing.
They're pretty yummy. That bread month for our academy that's going on right now is next month. So yeah, well, I'm looking forward to that. I love to bake bread. I love to bake all of it. What am I talking about? I told you guys I'm a baking nerd. So
Well, we thought that this would be a lovely option for an Easter dessert. So yes. please.
absolutely, absolutely. And the one thing I should mention too that I look for in my own garden and then in the stores was some mint. A couple of sprigs of mint goes really well in any kind of the fruit that you put on Pavlova. And then, like you said, if it's around Easter time, it should probably be more available. But the stuff I had in my garden was too raggedy looking, and I couldn't find any in the other stores. So that's just one more thing. You're always welcome to add some fresh herbs to it too for some color and flavor both.
If you're making the smaller ones and you're using your light on your oven, how can you tell that they're done and not over?
They'll get a slight light brown color. You don't want them too brown, but like, I don't know if I can hold it closer to my camera. You can see this is just kind of a tan, off-white tan color. You don't want it too dark because then of course it's gonna be too crunchy, because once you dig into that center, it's just, the texture inside is just incredible. That's why I urge you to give it a try. It's really good.
Oh. Okay. Any
All
more
right.
questions? Oh, thank you so much.
All right.
You have had people
you.
from all over the territory. We've got Kansas, Spokane. Betty, where are you now?